Developing and investing in a new healthcare facility can be a great way to control the destiny of your practice, create tax benefits, and create ancillary revenue for your physician partnership. All that in mind, it's critical to understand the processes and potential pitfalls so that you can avoid them in a development process. In collaboration with Ted Baker, Senior Vice President of Cornerstone Companies, a nationally recognized developer and investor in medical facilities, will help shed light on some of the components of a development transaction to ensure you can create a successful outcome. Now that we've talked through budgeting for a project and how to establish rents, let's talk about where the capital comes from. So Ted, can you tell us about the capital stack for a project and kind of break that down for our viewers today?
Yeah, so I think in brief, when you understand capital stack, what that really is referring to is where are the dollars coming from to pay for the project? In most real estate, I think as we all know, whether it's residential or commercial, there's a mortgage or there's debt on the real estate, but there's also that equity component, that down payment. And when you're talking projects of tens of millions of dollars, that can often be a large equity requirement. So it's important to understand where that's coming from and also how that equity or partnership is ultimately structured.
And would you say that there should be some professional setup of the partnership? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of money involved here. So is this just you're hiring your brother-in-law to write an operating agreement, or are you hiring a professional who really knows what's going on?
No, it's really critical in this aspect to hire an experienced real estate attorney, potentially have another advisor involved, whether that's an accountant, a developer, whatever that may be, ultimately to understand the nuances of what an operating agreement is, because that will set in stone how the partnership is treated, from initial onset of providing that equity to returns to potential out sale or other critical decisions that the partnership would make in regards to the real estate.
We know that it needs to be set up professionally, and we know that there's a lot of money involved, both equity and debt. But what if the partnership doesn't necessarily have the wherewithal, whether it's the equity for the down payment or the ability to source that debt, or they don't have banking relationships? How does that work? Would you bring in a third party? Is that the role of a developer to kind of arrange those financial pieces of the equation?
I think that's a great question. And really, real estate deals can come together in many different ways. But ultimately, from the lender perspective, many physician groups have a lending relationship. They may or may not be the best for a real estate oriented project. Sometimes it can help having a debt broker or a developer, someone experienced in getting terms for real estate deals to, one, provide competition amongst the lenders, to provide the most competitive terms, and ultimately manage the risk associated with the debt most appropriately. And from an equity perspective, again, it can happen in many different ways where it can be a joint venture. If the physicians want to provide all of the money and wholly own the building, we've seen that happen with some of our clients. You can bring joint venture equity, which may be the developer, maybe other outside capital from the physicians themselves. Ultimately, what we see is that physicians want to maintain some sort of control. So kind of that 51% threshold. And again, this can be structured and negotiated through the operating agreement, but really understanding where the money can come from various different ways. But ultimately, it's important to try and help the physicians maintain the control that they want in this investment.
So it really sounds like this is a choose your own adventure type transaction from the standpoint of debt and equity are core elements that are going to be required. Obviously, a budget's going to need to be set up. You're going to need to have certain professionals involved. But at the end of the day, there are all different sources of capital and different ways to structure the transaction that suit the potential needs of really any physician partnership. Would you agree?
I think that's right. And really, I think that spurs to the critical component of having someone experienced on your side. Again, an advisor, a developer, whatever that may look like, that really understands the nature of the transaction, that can help you navigate it, that can spell it out from a financial perspective, from a risk perspective, so that all those partners are aligned and ultimately create that successful venture.
And it sounds like there are so many great options for physician clients and physician partnerships. So thanks for sharing everything today, Ted. I really appreciate it.